Hello, and welcome to CJ Creates. I'm CJ, and I create stuff. Quick break from the Norea region because I'm ready to unveil my Paradox Fakémon. I tend to sit on an idea for a few months at a time before acting upon it and actually putting pen to paper, so I won't really bore you with the details, but let's jump into two designs that I really want to share with you today. First, a prehistoric Magcargo, and then second, a futuristic Exploud. Magcargo is actually one of my favorite fire-type Pokemon, and that's probably never going to change. Slugma is cute and all, but Magcargo brings this extra level of adorable to the table for me. I love the idea that its shell is formed from hardened lava that behaves like a hardened lava flow. It patches its shell over and over again, making it harder and harder as time progresses. Its official art even has a plume of fire erupting from the cracks, similarly to how such a thing might occur within a real lava flow. It's like a pocket of gas and the temperature of the lava flow and yada yada yada, tiny explosion. Very cool. Anyways, Magcargo looks like a happy little lava snail. And I also need to mention that the short animation Pokemon released a while ago, where Slugma warms a house, is very, very cute. And I hope sharing this picture of it doesn't get me in trouble with YouTube. They've been striking stuff like that lately, but I'm going to risk it. Anyways, how to make a prehistoric snail. Well, the problem here is that they actually haven't changed very much in all of history. Snails are kind of simple creatures, and they've always been snails. The easiest way to do this, I think, is to change the type of snail and the setting where it might live. So for me, Paradox Magcargo is actually a combination of two snaily inspirations, the scaly-footed gastropod and the Australian trumpet. Both of those names may sound like gibberish, but they're very, very real and very, very interesting species of snails. Let's start with the scaly-footed gastropod, also called the iron snail and the volcano snail. This little guy lives in hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. You'll notice it has a similar coloration to the modern form of Magcargo, a red body with a black shell. What makes the volcano snail so special is that it ingests and then incorporates iron particles into its shell. These are pulled from the water in the hydrothermal vent. Anyways, these become added protection, and it also grows iron secretions from its skin on the parts that it can't pull into its shell. That's actually what gives it the name the scaly-footed gastropod and makes it unique from many other species of snails. Paradox Magcargo takes these features and abilities into its design by placing a prehistoric lava snail in the context of the bottom of the ocean. Notably, it's also going to be larger than standard Magcargo, though not by much. I still want it to be recognizable, and so the scales are only distributed part of the way down the lava body, not all the way down. Another sea snail that I'm adding into the mix is the Australian trumpet, which I mentioned before. It's one of the largest species of sea snails, measuring at 7.5 inches long, which isn't that long in like normal human measurements. For snails, it's big, I swear. Anyways, you should look them up. They're very cool. They're also huge and carnivorous, and they have very interesting feeding strategies. I'm not going to get too much into it. That doesn't really play into the design here, so I'll let you look up snail feeding habits if that's something that interests you. Anyways, the big thing that I'm taking from the trumpet snail is its shell shape. Those fancy giant conch shells that you'll see at the beach or as decorations in people's houses or whatever, these are from the trumpet snail or similar snails. Essentially, Paradox Magcargo has a spiral shell that starts in a similar shape to modern Magcargo, but then elongates out the back into a hydrothermal vent. And to add to the design even more, I added a second vent to the main shell where it can expel plumes of smoke or smoky water. Anyways, I imagine the shell is filled with boiling hot water that Magcargo intakes into its body, and then it filters out all the iron particles and other minerals that it needs for nourishment, and expels everything else as waste from the vents. Essentially, Paradox Magcargo is a giant sea snail that takes carbon and iron from the vents at the bottom of the ocean, builds them into shells and armor, and then it itself also acts as a huge smokestack that moves from vent to vent. Eventually, it would find a way to the surface, growing smaller as it did, and losing parts of its shell. That's what would make it into modern Magcargo. Anyways, it takes from multiple notable sea snail species to do this, and I think it uses the best aspects of each of them. The only notable difference would be the eventual addition of spiky obsidian teeth that you'll see in the final design. I just wanted to make it feel more prehistoric, and so they got added. You can sue me about that if you want. Anyways, meet Broiling Vent, the Paradox Pokemon. Broiling Vent lives at the bottom of oceans, feeding off hydrothermal vents. The water that it drinks to feed off of is continually boiled hotter and hotter within the spirals of its shell. This shell is as hard as iron, and the same can be said of the plating that grows on other parts of its body. One thing I really wanted to do was stress how different Broiling Vent was from Magcargo while still being its ancestor at the same time. In my mind, the best way to achieve this was elongating its features. Magcargo is short and stout, and he's little, and I love everything about him. But making Boiling Vent into a larger, longer snails allow the body shape to be similar, but still different and unique. I also chose to keep the center of the shell a very similar shape, but then chose to spiral off of it differently to look more like the Australian trumpet snail before becoming a vent at the end. One thing that I really like about the prehistoric Paradox Pokemon that have been released by Nintendo is that they don't feel like evolutions nor mega evolutions. Instead, they seek to incorporate pre-existing features in new ways for similar Pokemon that have different body structures. Anyways, let me know how I did. Does this match up to other Paradox Pokemon designs you've seen in the past? And what do you think makes a good prehistoric Paradox Pokemon? So, you've seen a prehistoric snail, and a very cool one I might add, but now you're wondering what my intentions might be with Exploud. I really want to take Exploud into the future and explore what its purpose might be in a futuristic society. This design takes me a little bit out of my comfort zone though, so I figured I should address that. I'm an animal guy, and I like animals a lot more than most people will ever understand. They're my favorite, and I could talk about them all day long. Exploud, modern Exploud specifically, is at best a frog maybe, I think? It's some kind of reptilian amphibian hybrid with organ pipes all over its body and a giant mouth that, if you kind of think about it, takes up the space of where its internal organs should be. It's not quite an object mon, but it's definitely just a monster mon. It's not an animal in any way, shape, or form, at least to me. So what do I do about this? Well, as an Exploud enjoyer, I want to make sure that I harness its full potential while avoiding the pitfalls that other futuristic Paradox Pokemon have suffered from. I don't want to just draw a mechanized version of Exploud. That's boring. It would be a disservice to design that I truly enjoy. The best way to do this is figure out what kind of a role Exploud could play in a futuristic society. And I don't want it to be a loudspeaker. That's too obvious and doesn't really serve a purpose. Just buy a speaker, don't enslave a Pokemon to use as a speaker. But then I remembered something really interesting from this scene in Detective Pikachu where Ryan Reynolds' persona fights Charizard. You see, as part of the entertainment for the underground fighting ring, they have a bunch of Loudred who are beatboxing and singing to provide the music. But they also have a guy at a turntable who I can only assume is the DJ. This is kind of weird and brings into question the physiological abilities of Loudred. Can you Bluetooth to a Loudred and have it sing the song you sent to it? Or do you need an aux cable, and where would you plug that in? How does all of this work? Anyways, there aren't really answers to my ridiculous questions about one specific scene of Detective Pikachu, nor the physiological capabilities of Loudred to produce music that a DJ is creating, but at least for me, this inspired what Paradox Exploud could be. What if it was like an all-in-one DJ? Something I find very interesting about most of the futuristic Paradox Pokemon is that they retain a similar silhouette and shape language as their modern counterparts. They don't branch out very far, but instead work within the boundaries already set to produce slicker and more elegant-looking Pokemon. I think this is one of the cool but often frustrating features of these Pokemon. They almost aren't different enough, and by only changing very little, they feel like knockoffs of the originals and not advancements on the designs. I wanted to take the original design for Exploud, advance it forward with minimal but impactful changes. At the moment I decided to do that, I used a low opacity version of the official art to draw over and maintain proper shape language. I think this really added to the design's ability to fit in with pre-existing designs produced by the Pokemon Company. The changes I did make were physically important to show off technological advancement, but didn't have a major impact on the silhouette of the Pokemon. Anyways, let's talk about what's different. First of all, I added headphones and moved the outermost piping on Exploud's head upwards. The pipes are also slightly decreased in size to make room for the headphones on either side. These, in combination with the new eyepiece that covers the front of its face, are intended to match the kinds of cool DJ aesthetics that we often associate with music makers in the industry. Also, in between the eyes, there's a line that will fluctuate with sound as Exploud plays music. I don't know. It seemed cool to me at the time, and I still like it. We'll see if I keep it or not. Anyways, secondly, I filled the gaping mouth that modern Exploud has with 5 speakers, 1 giant one in the center and 4 smaller ones in each corner that are meant to match the coloration and pattern of modern Exploud's mouth. I've always loved the lines within Exploud's mouth that are intended to look like a speaker, and so I just translated them into what they were already intended to look like. The third and definitely most notable change that I made for Paradox Exploud was in the arms. Like I said, being just a speaker feels a little reductive to me and wouldn't be a full realization of the potential this kind of Pokemon would have. The ends of Paradox Exploud's arms are now split horizontally, not like their fingers are split from each other, but that the fingers themselves have a horizontal split in them. It's hard to show that in a drawing, but I hope it is communicated well. Anyways, within that slit, vinyl discs are intended to sit there, and its middle finger is now extended into a pointed needle that would rest on the record as it spins. These features allow Paradox Exploud to be a fully fledged, all-in-one, self-aware DJ, able to liven any party in an instant. I also added little sound meters on its arms to show the volume level as Exploud is jamming. These little pops of color help to make the design feel more electronic in nature, at least for me. I like the idea of it being able to use its loud sound or voice in combination with the spinning discs on its hands as weapons in battle. The discs especially would be dangerous, as they would kind of be like razor blades if it spun them fast enough. Also, I really like the idea of Paradox Exploud playing its own theme music in battles, and that each Exploud could potentially choose its own theme music based on its personality and things like that. Also, I want to note that I made this design when I was really tired, and I couldn't remember to save my life which version of the Paradox Pokemon was Gray Steel and which was supposed to be the original colors of the Pokemon. So, when I thought I was coloring this Pokemon properly, it turns out I was actually drawing its shiny. Enjoy. You'll see the right coloration later in the official art, and I think it looks nice. I only have Pokémon Scarlet, and so I actually haven't interacted much with the future Paradox Pokemon. Meet Thundering Vibe, the Paradox Pokemon. Thundering Vibe is always ready for any occasion and has the right tracks to fit your mood. A popular Pokemon among those who love music, it is known for playing crystal clear renditions and remixes using the vinyl records it holds between its split fingers. When necessary, it will use these discs like razor blades in battle, spinning them at high speeds to cut down their opponent's defenses. They're also able to emit sound at high decibels that can be damaging at close range, sometimes even causing permanent damage to the listener. I wanted to give this Pokemon the name Thundering Vibe because I want it to possess the two things that it is good at, being loud and putting out vibes. It can be chill and I gave this Pokemon the name Thundering Vibes because I wanted the name to show off the two things that it's good at, being loud and putting out vibes. It can be chill and throw down a nice slow jam for you, but it can also remix and blast EDM for a whole warehouse full of people. The idea that it has the perfect track for any occasion and knows the right volume and remix to apply to it is such a fun concept to me and fully realizes the potential of this Pokemon if it were to evolve into the future. But what do you think of these designs? An ancient sea snail that boils water at the bottom of the ocean, and a futuristic DJ well equipped to handle any vibe, mood, and occasion. For me, I love both designs. They bring to light two of my favorite Pokemon out of the 1,015 that exist right now. I think they accentuate my favorite parts of their individual thematics and push them to the appropriate eras they're geared towards. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to let me know what you think of these designs. Are there any other Pokemon you think need Paradox forms? Any you want me to attempt? For now, I hope you like what I've made, and I can't wait to see you create something of your own.